So since we said that our sign up post is going to be handled by this function, so over here in the auth controller, so in the auth go file in the controllers, this is the sign up function. All right, so we will handle the form submission over here. So first of all, we have to import or bring in our gin context as a parameter over here in this function. So we will do a C presentation and we will use the pointer of the gin context. Good. Like this. Great. Now, okay, let's import our package, our gin framework in this file. Let's check it. Okay, let's do a quick fix. Great. We have it in. Powerful. Now, what we are supposed to also do is that we will have to bind our method or our function to our auth controller struct over here, since we will need the configuration over here, and it is through this configuration that we will be able to access the DB, that is the GORM. Because if you look at this configuration, it is an instance of the pointer. It is pointing to the pointer of the config, then the config struct in the config go over here. You see that? So when we come to the config.go, we have the config.struct over here, and that is how we will be able to access this DB. And it is the instance of the GORM package, and we'll be able to use the create method in the GORM package to create the user when the user signs up. So surely we are going to need that this struct over here. So we will bind this struct in our sign up function over here. So let's take it from there. Good. So we will bind it and we will use a presentation. Let's use AC for the auth controller, and it will be like this. Good. But we will have to use the pointer of this struct so that we can actually get the values of all the data in the config struct we have in the config.go over here. Good. So it will be a pointer like that. Good. Now let's enter into our function and begin the submission. Now, first of all, we have to create a struct, and this struct is going to be the form data. So the form that we are going to receive from the sign up form. So when we come to our sign up form, this is our sign up form from the signup.html. So we are creating a struct to basically bind the form data over here. So in our sign up form, we have the user name, we have the username here, we have the email and the password. So we will create the struct to just imitate that exactly, so that we can just connect and bind it to that. So we'll create our struct and we will say type, and we will call our struct form data, since it's going to handle the data from the form coming in. Okay, so we will say that is a struct. Good. And inside this struct, we will declare these names. We have the username from the HTML. Good. And we will say that that username is a string coming in. We also have the email coming in, which is also a string. Okay. And we also have lastly the password coming in as well. Okay. A string. Great. Now, we have to now bind that to the form that is coming in. You see that? So in our form representation, so we will do for each of the for each of the declarations that we have over here in the struct, we will do a backtick and we will say that this is binding to the name, the username from the form. So if you come to the sign up form here, so the first one, we are referring to this, the name in our sign up input element over here. So the name, the email, and the password. So we see the name is small capital, is small letters. We have a small letter of U. So that is what we are basically referring to. So in our struct, we will do form, then we will say that this is supposed to bind to, let's do, it's supposed to be a string. So inside it, we will say it is binding to the username from the form, like that in the backtick. Good. So we see that is how we are going to do for all of them as well. So the email too, the same way. We will say that from the form we have a name input coming in, which is called email. Good. The same thing applies to the password as well. And we will say password. Great. Now we have our struct ready. We have our struct ready. Now we see it over here. Our struct is not used yet. It is unused. So now we will create a variable and we will bind that variable to this struct. Okay, so that is how we will be able to access and save the variables of all the data coming in this case the username, the email, and the password. So we will create a variable and we will say that var, and we will use let's call this variable input, since it's an input coming in from the form, and we will call it input. And what type of variable is it? It's going to be an instance of this struct. So we will say that it is actually an instance of the form data struct that we have created. So form data that we have over here. Good. Exactly. So we will be able to access each of them independently using the variable over here. So for the case of username, we will do input dot username, input dot email to get each and every one of them coming in. Great. Now in we are going to use a certain method in the gen context. Okay, since we are using the GEM framework. Now, the data coming in, we will bind the data coming in, okay, from the GEM context, as the GEM is handling that for us. We will bind it to the input variable that we have here. So we will use the C, okay, dot. So using the C, that means that we are accessing the GEM context. Great. Then there is this method in the GEM framework called should bind. Should bind. Okay, good. Should bind. Now we see it over here. These are all the methods that um let me do it. Okay, good. Now these are all the methods that we can use. Okay, so in case we are using we are submitting the form through an API. Okay, that case that, so if the API is a JSON, it is coming in, the data is coming in as a JSON, then we will use should bind JSON. But since we are not using we are not using an API, and we are handling the whole thing from our own system, from an HTML file as we have it over here. Okay, so we will use the should bind. Great. And inside this method, we will bind it to the input variable that we have here. So we will use the pointer of the input variable that we have here, so that we are binding it to the details of the input variable that we have. Okay, so it should be a pointer of the input variable. Okay, so that we can actually change and use access the values coming in. Okay, so now that is that. So we go ahead and now let's do one important thing, which is trimming or removing any spaces that is coming along with the data that we are receiving in this function. So in our form submission, in case somebody or a user input a username and add a space to it, so we want to automatically handle that and remove every spaces so that we get only the data that the user entered. Is that, I think is that is very um understandable. Good. So now we will access each and every one of them and we will trim the spaces from all of them. So we start with the username. So we will do input dot username. Okay, so you see in this case we are using the capital U, so we are accessing it from here. Okay, since it has been binded to the username, so we will do it like this, and we will say, so input dot username will be equal to the trim space method in Go. We will use that trim space. Great, like that. So this is the method that we are using, trim space, and inside it we will pass our input username. Okay, so we are trimming the input username that is coming in like that. Good. Then we will continue the same way with the email and with the password as well, like that. We get it. Good. Where from this error? Okay. Okay, good. Yes, so the trim space is actually a method in the string package from Go. So we will do strings dot. Good. So that is that. So this strings is a package, an internal package in Go, and it is inside this package that we are accessing the trim space method from it. So it will be like this. Then we will import the strings package into our project file over here. So let's do a quick fix. Good. Now let's import it. Now we have the string package over here imported for us. Good. Now we will do the same thing for the email and the same thing for the password as well. So let me duplicate that and do email. The same for the password as well. Great. Now we have trimmed all the spaces, so we will have the only the values or only the data coming in. Great. Now, after we got all the data from the form, now we are supposed to now be able to create them into our database. We are supposed to now input them or create them in our according to the user struct that we have over here to be in line exactly with that, the username and the email and the password as well. Good. So in that, we will now declare a variable and we will call that variable user, like that. And we will say that this variable user that we are creating is supposed to be an instance of the user model that we have over here in our user.go. So this is the idea. So we are binding that user to that user model over here because we are going to create that into our database. So we will say we will import and bring that model over here. So we will do models dot user. Okay, so models dot user because we want to access the user struct over here. You see that. So we now come in into our models module over here. Then we will now access the user struct. That is what we are doing over here. Good. So you see models dot username, and because we have not imported the models module in our application, we get this error over here, so let's import that. Good. Quickly. Good. Now we have our modules imported successfully, so we can now access the struct in the modules over here, the user struct over here. Good. Now let's continue. Since it is a struct, it has some parameters, so we have to indicate that as well. So we will do our curly braces over here, which is indicating that it is a struct, and it has parameters as well. So as we all see it over here, these are the parameters. We have the email, the username, and the password. Exactly. So inside it over here, we will now assign all the values for that user module or the user struct that we have here. So the username first, the email, the password, exactly the same format. So the username, then the email, then the password. Good. Now we will now assign that the username is actually supposed to take the value of the input username that we have over here, like that. Good. So we will do the username is supposed to be binded to the input.username that we have over here. Then you bring your comma. You don't forget that. Good. Then the username as well is supposed to be taking the value of the input.email that we have over here also. Good. Like that. You bring your comma. Then the same thing with the password too, like that. Then you have your comma also inside over here, like this. Great. Now we will go ahead and hash our password, since our database password is not taking the straightforward password, so we have to hash it for security reasons and save the hashed password instead in our database. You see that? So you then create a variable and we'll call it hash. Let's call it hash password. Hash password. Okay, good. Like that. And you see that. So we will use a function to do the hashing for us. Okay, good. So we will now pass the user password into that function, and that function will actually handle the hashing for us. Then we will have that in our hash password variable that you have declared over here. Then we will now save that one instead. You get that? Good. So we will place that function that is going to handle the hashing for us in the utilities over here. So we have the utilities folder that we created over here, but we've not created the file yet. Good. So inside it, let's first do create the file inside the utilities and say that let's call it hash.go. Okay, good. And we will have that function to handle the hashing for us inside over here, like that. Good. So we will do utilities utils dot, then we will say that the name of our function will be called hash password. Hash password, like this. So this will be the function, and we will pass our user password into it. You see that we will pass the user password into it for it to use that and hash it for us. So we will say user dot password, like that. So the user password over here, user dot password, Good. Then we have that over here. So let's bring in the utilities package also quickly. Okay. All right. I think because we've not yet added the function over here. So let's finish adding it over here, then we'll now see from there. In our hash.go, let's first bring in our package utils like that. Good. Then we will create our function hash password also like this. Okay, good. Now this is where we are going to handle the hashing for us, and we will return the hashed over here, and we will save it over here in this variable. Then we will now save that one in our database instead, rather than the raw password the user will input over here. Good. All right, now let's see and bring in our utils. Then we are able to now import that mod into our file here as a module. Okay, we have it. Great. Now let's continue and create the function, the content of our function over here, which is handling the hashing for us. Okay, good. Now, because we are passing in our input over here, as we saw it over here, we said that we passed in the um, user password inside this function. So that is exactly what we are supposed to also um, make it consistent. So inside our function over here, we will say that it is accepting a parameter, and let's call that parameter password, and let's specify that it is a string. Good. So this function is supposed to return a password also onto us. Okay, so we will do that. This is also returning something for us. Exactly. So like that, as this. So we will say that this function is returning um, the password for us, and that is a string. Okay, good. And we will say that if anything happens, or if there is an error also, we should return it so that we can also catch that error. Okay, so we say that it is returning a string and an error also for us. Great. Like that. So now inside our function, we are going to use a package to hash the password for us, and that package we are going to use a bcrypt, or a bcrypt in this case. Okay, so let's open our terminal and install that package. So in our terminal over here, we will do go get, and the package is coming from GoLang.org, then /x/crypto/bcrypt. Good. So this is the package that we are going to use. So now let's install that and wait for it to finish installing. Good. Now we have it installed. Now let's go ahead and now use it to hash our password. Let me close the terminal. So we will declare a variable, and let's say the variable, let's call it bytes. Okay, good. And we will say that variable is going to use the bcrypt package that we installed. So the bcrypt package that we installed. like that. And there is a method in that package that we installed. There is a package in that package. There is a method in that package called generate from password. So that is what we are going to install. We are going to use. So generate from password. Okay, we have it like that here. Good. And this is the method that we are going to use from the bcrypt package. Okay, and it is automatically imported in for us over here. So in this method, we are going to say that this is taking the password, okay, like that. Now, the generate from password method in the bcrypt takes two parameters over here. The method over here takes two parameters. So let's look at it from here. Good. So he said the assignment mismatch, we have only one variable, but bcrypt generate from method now, it returns two values. You see that? So one, it takes the password in the form of a slice, a byte slice, and it also takes the cost, okay, which is also an integer. We see that over here. So our password, which is a string, we will convert that into a slice byte. Okay, so like that, we will do it like this. Great. Like that. You see that? That is that. So it means that now the password string which it's coming in, we've now converted it to a slice byte. And again, the method is also taking a cost integer. Okay, so with that, we are going to use the default cost that comes with the bcrypt package. Is get that? So we will say bcrypt dot default cost, like that. So you use the default cost. Okay, good. Now we will return that variable over here. So this is what is going to handle, and it will hash it for us, and you will save it over here. Then you will do return, then the byte. So since the password that we are returning is supposed to be a string, like that. Good. So you will say string, then you will say the variable byte that we have over here. Now you see, we said initially that in case in the generation, if there is any error or whatsoever, we should also catch that one. So in our return parameter over here, we say that we are returning a string and an error if there is. Okay, so meaning that in our declaration of the variable that we have here, we are supposed to also include the error if in any way we catch any error. So we will do the byte, then the error over here, like that, so that in the returning we can also include that as well. So we will do comma, then the error, like this. Now you see all the errors are gone. So that is what you are going to catch. So now this is what it is returning. So inside our sign up function over here, we will see that we are now going to catch that one over here. So since we returned the bytes, the hash password as a string byte and an error as well, we are also supposed to also likewise over here catch that as well. So let me say for now, let's silence that error over here with an underscore. Okay, so in our validations we will handle and catch that. So let's continue from there. So now we have our hash password saved in our hash password variable. So as we see it over here, it is declared and it is not yet to use. So now we will go ahead and use it. You see that? So how do we use it? We will now save it to the user password that we have over here. The user password that we have, user password that we have. Okay, and we will say that the user password is now equal to the hash password over there. You see that? Good. Now this is that. So now we are now able to now go ahead and create our data into our database. So now we come to where we want to access the configuration, the GORM over here. You see that the GORM DB, which is saved in the DB variable in the config struct that we have over here, and we have that in our config .config file over here. So you see that? Good. And in our auth.go, this is exactly what I said and explained it from the beginning. So we have that config over here in our auth controller, and that is exactly what we passed over here inside our signup function. So we will access that using the representation, the AC representation that we have over here. So we will do the AC dot, you'd see that, then we will access the config. So this config is this config that we have over here, good. Then we will be able to access the DB. So this DB is this DB that we have over here. You see that? Good. Clear. Now let's continue. Then that is what is giving us access into the pointer of the GORM package. Okay, and that is what we are going to use to create the user into our database. Now let's continue from there. Good. So inside that we have this method called create, the create method, and we are going to create the user that we declared. Okay, good. It's supposed to be a small letter U. Great. And we are going to use the pointer of that user so that we get the data or the value that we have binded to that um, variable user. So that's why we are using the pointer. Great. Then we are able to now create it like that. So in this GORM package, we are supposed to use an error to catch any error during the creation process. So we will do dot error like that, Good. Then we will be able to catch the error if there is an error that occurred. So this is what we will do. We will say that if there is an error, okay, so we will declare it to be a variable, and we say that if this, okay, and you will say that in that case where the error is not nil, meaning that the error there is not empty, then we will as well catch it, and you will say that we are supposed to return to the sign up page if there is an error in creating it. So we will bring in the C representation from the gin context, and we are going to return the HTML file. So we will do c.html. Okay, if it were supposed to be an API, we would have used c.json. So we use the JSON method, but in this case we are using the HTML method. So the HTML method takes the code, the HTTP code, which is an integer, then we will take the name, which is a string, and we will take any object as well. Good. So in our case, we can do HTTP dot status bad request. You use the bad request if it wasn't successful. Good. Then we will return to the sign up page like that. Signup.html like this. Good. Then you bring in gen.h. Okay, and we will leave it empty. We will not pass any parameter or variable inside it when we are returning the sign up page if there is an error. So we will leave it like this. Then we will do, and we will say it should now return. Good. Now we've handled that successfully. Now, if there is no error, it means that it will create the user into our database. Then we will return to the home page back. So we use the C representation from the gin context. Then there is a method called redirect that we are going to use, the redirect method, and inside it we will say that it should it takes the status quo, the HTTP the code, and the location where we are returning redirecting to. So we will say HTTP dot status found. Then the route where the location that we are returning to. So we will say the home, so which is the only / as we defined in our route.go over here, which is a get method. Good. So now we will do that and return that as that. Then we are done. So now let's open our browser and see how it goes from there. So let's run our project and let's go run main.go. Okay, our server started. Let's allow it. Our server started. Let's open our browser. Okay, localhost 8080. Good. Now, if you visit it, our home page is returning successfully. Okay, now let's go to our sign up page /sign up. Okay, our sign up page is also returning. Now let's enter our username, email, and password and see what happens. Let me use my name Ishmael and let me do ishmael@gmail.com. Let me do password. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's check our database to see. Okay, let me visit the database. Okay, and let me refresh it. Okay, our data is not being saved. Now, let's check why it's not being saved. Okay, let's come to the sign up page. Oh, we see it over here. In our sign up form, we've not declared or we've not defined our action and our method that we are using. So that is why it was not saved. Now let's do our action and let's say that we are sending this data to our sign up route. So sign up route, and we say that the method is a post. method like that. So the method is a post method like this. Okay, good. Now let's um submit the form again and let's see. Okay, let me refresh the page and let me submit it again. Okay, now as we said, it should, so if it goes through, it's supposed to return or redirect to the home page. Now we see after submitting, we have come to the home page. So now let me visit the database to see if it has been saved successfully. Now let me refresh our user. Good. Now our data is being saved successfully and the password is also hashed successfully over here. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.